of metals on the major exchanges and people taking delivery?
Yeah, so people are taking delivery. There's one thing I will say about that that I noticed. I haven't seen anybody else cover it. I only noticed this pretty by accident looking at Gold Charts R Us. And what I did notice was that the metal isn't actually, a lot of the metal isn't moving. Some of it is, but a lot of it is moving from registered to eligible, meaning from for sale on the futures market to no longer for sale. So but why isn't it moving off? Like why isn't it going into some other private vault? And what I noticed was that a specific vault has accumulated specifically eligible gold, right? Not registered. They have a tiny amount of registered, and that is the Delaware Depository. So the Delaware Depository, I looked it up, and I didn't do an investigative report on it or anything, or do any kind of Project Veritas on their executives or whatever's going on there, but I looked at their advertising and what's their business model. A lot of it is individual retirement accounts, right? And so you can hold physical silver in an IRA, and there'd be no reason to move it. So if you're a big whale or you're a very wealthy, high level worth individual, then you'd probably buy a futures contract, take the metal off of the registry, put it in an IRA, store it in Delaware, in the Delaware vault, and then just leave it there. So, I mean, that's the most efficient way to buy silver if you trust that the vault's going to have it for you, and you don't believe in a complete monetary collapse where you'll have to actually take the bar and give it to somebody. Maybe that'll happen, but in that case, you do need coins. I mean, but maybe these people don't think that'll happen. I'm not them. I'm not the one storing 1,000-ounce bars in Delaware. So as to what will happen in the end game. And will you be able to acquire gold and silver? Well, the question is, yeah, you'll be able to acquire it, but with what, right? Will you be able to acquire gold and silver with, or meaning real money? The end game is really when the money substitute doesn't work anymore, right? Everybody has these dollars, which supposedly represent purchasing power, and they have in their heads how much they can buy, and they have in their heads how much they're worth. But the end game is when those money substitutes don't work anymore. So the question isn't, will you be able to acquire gold and silver? You will. The question is, will you be able to acquire it with dollars, right? When there's no longer an exchange rate between gold and silver and the dollar, that by definition means you can't. So you might be able to call up a bullion dealer and say, look, I forget my dollars. I know you don't want my dollars, but do you want my, real estate or my car or my expertise in XYZ? They have the silver. It's not like it disappears. It's just that people don't want to exchange it for dollars. So you'll be able to acquire it, but with your labor or with your assets. But the best thing is to have it now so you can acquire other people's labor and assets in exchange for the money that you have now instead of being on the other side of the equation. That's what you want.
And when it comes to, I guess, a currency crisis and kind of a complete loss in confidence of the currency, people see what happened in the 80s, when we saw double-digit inflation. And, we were close to double-digit inflation even by the official numbers just a few months ago. But this kind of complete loss of faith in the currency, people in the US at least have never experienced anything like that. And they might be skeptical, like, what is the precedent for this? And what are the signs now that this is going to happen sometime, at least in the relatively near future?
What are the signs that they're in a currency crisis and people in the United States have never experienced it? Well, they did briefly in January 1980. That was the peak of a currency crisis when silver went to 50 and gold went to 872, and that was the dollar nearly collapsing entirely. I mean, Paul Volcker had to bring rates to about 20% in order to incentivize people not to sell dollars. Right? That's how high that it had to go to restore faith in the currency. You had to pay a lot of money in order to get people to hold dollars. And now, when are we going to get to that now? I mean, it could. The pyramid is so complex and so stilted that it's impossible to pinpoint a single fulcrum point that would collapse. That we say, oh, it's going to be that one. Right? We don't know what it's going to be, but we know that everything is so huge that when something breaks, there's going to be, I think, a day where we're suddenly going to see the dollar drop like 10% on forex on foreign exchanges and gold rise by $300-$400, and nobody's going to know why exactly this is happening, right? Because there's players with such humongous positions in derivatives that can just melt away to nothing because of something that happens in a central bank somewhere. It's like we saw this already. We've been seeing it. We saw it in the UK, right? All of a sudden, their entire bond market, their rates went up like 300 basis points in a day or two or something like that. And they were talking about everyone's pension is going to suddenly disappear in a few hours if the central bank doesn't buy bonds right now, right? We've seen these things threatened before. It's not like we're not seeing them, but every time they plug the dam. But there's going to be one thing where they won't be able to anymore. Right? And we're all saying, just what's it going to be? When is it going to be? We don't know, but we know that it's coming because we see the signs every few months. Something else is about to collapse. It was nickel on the LME, or it was LDIs on the UK, or I think it's going to be something in Japan. Maybe it won't be something in Japan. Maybe it'll be Credit Suisse. Who knows? But it's not going to be like this steady thing from the 70s to the 80s. I think it's going to be like a day or two where everything changes and everyone says, "Oh crap, what do I do now?"